Hi, it's Jen, and we're back for another Books and Looks video. This time, I am going to be talking about a book I read very recently called The Marvels by Brian Selznick. And this is a very unique book because a large portion of it is told all in pencil drawings, and then it switches to your traditional text for the rest of the story, and then it also ends in more pencil drawings. So it's very cool. That's something I don't really read a whole lot of, but I really did like this book. It's a frame story, or if you're unfamiliar with that term, it basically means that it's a story within a story. So it starts off telling the story, which is the pencil drawing story, and then the typed set pages are another story about that story. So they're connected, but it's technically two separate stories. So today, the look I'm going to do while I talk about this book is inspired by the cover. So I'm going to do like this dark blue, kind of purple vibe and gold. We'll see how it goes. So hopefully it works out. I have a vision in mind, but who knows? You know how it goes when you do makeup. Sometimes it works the way you want, sometimes it doesn't. So here we go. All right, so this book, as you saw, it starts out with the art pieces, the pencil drawings, and over 30 some pages, or excuse me, 300 some pages, it tells the story of the Marvel family. And the Marvel family started out with two brothers who were on a boat, a vessel, traveling across the Atlantic to America. Unfortunately, a storm came and it capsized. But an important detail is it capsized while they were putting on a little play. And the one brother who survived was playing like the damsel in distress, while his older brother was playing an angel who saves him from the Kraken. And it was pretty cute because the Kraken was just like this little puppet thing. But anyway, not important detail. So the boat crashes, or not crashes, a storm comes and it sinks. And everybody perishes except the two brothers. The older brother is close to death and he does end up dying, but they survive the boat sinking and make their way to an island where the older brother shortly dies thereafter. So he buries his older brother there. Oh, there was a dog. There was a little puppy. There was a puppy on the boat, and the puppy also survived. So he buries his brother on this island, and then he builds a fire for, warmth and food and whatnot, and accidentally starts like a big fire on the island. But it works in his favor because the fire actually alerts other boats nearby, and then he comes in and he's rescued, and so he and his dog survive. They're the only survivors of the whole boat sinking. So they make it back. They make it to the States, and he's young. He's like 12, and he has his dog, and he somehow, like I said, it's all in pictures, so it doesn't really explain, but somehow he ends up and he finds his way to the theater. The local theater. I'm sorry, I was confused. They were started in the United States and they ended up in London. Excuse me. So they ended up in London, and he goes to the Royal Theater in London. And it's currently under construction when this happens, when he shows up with his puppy. And he's orphaned and homeless, but as it turns out, if you recall, they were putting on a play on the boat when the storm came. So he has a talent for acting, like his natural innate talent. So they end up kind of like adopting him, the construction crew, and he actually lives in the theater. He grows up in the theater and he becomes an actor. Once it's finished, he gets a job there and he becomes an actor. He falls in love. No, excuse me, before that, I'm getting ahead of myself. So one night, he's an adult, he's an established actor. The dog passed away, just nothing bad happened. It was just older and it passed away. And then out of the blue, somebody leaves a baby on the doorstep of the theater, the stage door theater. And so the boy, or now he's a man now, he basically decides to keep the baby because he lives in this theater by himself. And even though he's, has friends and acquaintances and fans because of what he does, he decides to keep this baby and raise it. So he raises the baby, and then, he grows up, and now this baby, also raised in the theater, he becomes an actor. And he's acting, and he's doing great. He's being really successful. So eventually he meets a young woman. They get married. She's also an actor. And so they are famous, this wonderful, famous married couple in the theater who have this interesting backstory of how he was abandoned and somebody took him in, et cetera, et cetera. So he's like famous. Plus, he's actually a really good actor. So they have a baby, and this little baby also grows up in the theater. And as it turns out, he's a fantastic actor. It runs in his family, whatever. So he also grows up literally in the theater. He is on stage. He's doing little parts. Like if there's a baby or a child, he's automatically cast. So he becomes famous. He grows up. He becomes famous. He ends up marrying and having a baby, another little boy. And I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to remember the names because they were all super unique names. I do know that the original little boy who survived the boat was, I believe, named Billy. So Billy is the original boy who survived the boat sinking. And then the baby that he finds, he names Marcus after his brother. So we have Billy, and then we have Marcus. Then Marcus grows up in the theater, gets married, has a baby, and he gives him a theater name that I'm unfamiliar with. Hold on, I'm checking. Oberon. So, I should remember that because it's from Midsummer Night's Dream, but so he names him, the baby's named Oberon. Oberon grows up and gets married, and no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. His name is Alex. They named the baby Alex. Alex's baby is named Oberon. So Alex ends up having a baby, Oberon, and then Oberon has a baby named Leo. So we're talking about multiple generations, and they're all in the theater. They're all acting. They're all famous. They all have these charmed lives. But Alex has some sort of mental instability, and he ends up kind of losing his mind and gets basically fired from being an actor. But he just, I don't know how it's a story, but he ends up living in the theater, in the rooms where they store the costumes, and in the basement where they store sets and all of that stuff. So he's living there kind of out of his mind. Everybody seems to just kind of forget, because in the meantime, Alex has Oberon, and then Oberon grows up and becomes a famous actor, and then they have baby Leo, and then Leo grows up, and he doesn't want to be an actor, but he wants to be an artist, so he's still involved in the theater. So here we have poor Alex, who's shunned because he has some mental instabilities. But then Oberon basically is my father's crazy. But Leo wants to, he kind of connects with his grandfather. He visits him in these secret rooms where he hides, whatever. A fire breaks out in the theater. So at this point, 150 years have passed by that this theater has been in action, putting on plays, and it's always this amazing family of actors, generation after generation, putting on all these amazing plays and basically just being amazing. So little Leo is like, oh no, the theater's on fire. And my grandfather's in the bowels of the theater, probably trapped, and nobody even like pays attention to him or cares about him. So he goes in to the burning theater to try to save his grandfather. Remember, these are all just the pictures. So this is my verbal interpretation of the pictures in the book. So Leo goes back in to save his his grandfather. But that's where it ends. So it ends with like, fire pictures and Leo screaming, "Grandfather, grandfather, where are you?" That's how it ends. So at this point in the story, it's like about halfway through story-wise, but it's much further because it's pictures. So it's deeper into the physical book. But it's about half the story. So it ends there, and then it jumps ahead jumps ahead to present day. It's 1990s, present day, 1990s. And new narrator, new story, new setting, everything. It's this young boy who's hopping off the train in London, and he has an address on a piece of paper, and you come to find out he is looking for his uncle who lives somewhere in London. He doesn't know his way around London because he goes to school outside of London. He doesn't really know his way around the city. So he goes looking for his uncle, and slowly you figure out that he got in trouble at school. He accidentally set a fire because he knocked over a candle or something and started a fire, and he got in trouble. And he thinks he's going to be expelled, so he runs away. His parents aren't the greatest parents. They're on vacation, and they don't want to have anything to do with him. So he's like, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do. So he realizes, wait, I have this uncle who he's never actually met. He doesn't actually know at all. He just knows he has an uncle in London, and he has an address. So he figures out, I'm just going to go find him. I'll just go live with him. My parents are traveling around the world. They don't give a crap about me. I'm about to get kicked out of school. I don't know what else to do. So he decides he's going to go to London and try to find his uncle. It's a fair plan. When on his way there, he runs into this younger child. By the way, this young man is 15. I think he's 15. He's not old enough to drive, but he's a teenager. He's high school age, freshman, sophomore age. He's 15. His name's Joseph. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. His name's Joseph. So he is on his way to find his uncle. He doesn't know his way around, and he bumps into this 12-year-old kid whose name I can't remember. It'll come to me. Maybe I can find it while I'm scrolling through here. Well, he bumps into this kid, and this kid's like, I'll help you find it. I know who you're talking. I know your Uncle Albert. Why does he always live that way? Why does he keep his house like that? And Joseph's like, I never met my uncle. So he finds his way to the house, and when he gets into the house, he kind of understands why this kid is why does your uncle live like that? What's up with him? He seems so weird, blah, 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 blah. As it turns out, his uncle lives in a house that is kept as if it's the, I don't know, late 1800s, all this old furniture, and the dining room was set up where the one chair was knocked over, and there's half-eaten food on the table and a napkin laying on the floor and half-drunk glasses of wine. And so he doesn't really realize what's going on. He's just this is weird. So eventually his uncle's just get in here, whatever. I don't know why you're here, but I'm going to call your parents first thing in the morning. Oh, and by the way, Joseph's not feeling well after it's raining and stuff. And so that's why his uncle's well, I don't want you here, but you're sick. So just get in here. Don't touch anything. I'm going to call your parents first thing in the morning. So he ends up getting a hold of the parents, but the parents are oh, we're in, I want to say Taiwan or something. And they're we can't get there for at least a month. So you're just going to have to deal. So he deals. And over time, Joseph and Albert kind of start to get to know each other and start to get close, but Albert is always very standoffish, very weird, all these weird things. And Joseph keeps hearing voices. It sounds like there's other people in the house with them, but he can't find anybody. Anywhere he looks, he can't find anybody. So he's really weirded out by it. Like, who's here? What's going on? Why do I hear this? Why does he keep everything all strange and like set as if there's just had a party yesterday and he just hasn't cleaned up yet? All this weird stuff. So over some time, Joseph slowly realizes, also he finds out that the friend who helped him the very first day lives next door. So this kid knew how to get there all the time. And he slowly, eventually starts to kind of endear himself to his Uncle Albert. But Uncle Albert is still like set in his ways and doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And just can't wait for his parents to come back and collect him and take him home, take him back to school, whatever. He doesn't care. So, but in the meantime, they're getting closer. They're figuring things out. They're starting to get into a routine of kind of living together because it's going to be like a month before his parents can be there. So eventually, I forget how he figures it out. Oh, yes. So Albert once a week goes to the theater to see a show, the London Royal Theater. And so while Albert is there one time, he and the little kid who lives next door decide to like go investigating and starting to figure things out. And then Joseph finds all the drawings from the beginning of the story. Remember all the drawings? And so he's reading all these drawings, looking at them, realizing that there's a whole story, and is like, who are these people? And he never really knew anything about the family, like where he grew up. Like, he was never really close. It was just his mom and his dad, and they were always traveling. And then eventually he got sent to school, like a boarding school. So he never really felt like he had a family, didn't know anything. So when he sees these pictures, he's like, oh my gosh, my Uncle Albert must have drawn these. And it's like, it's my family. It's my family history. I've always wanted to know. I'm finally seeing who my family is. So he thinks he is actually a Marvel, and it comes from a long line of famous actors. And he, like me, when I was reading, he was like, well, did Leo save his grandfather when the fire happened? Because that's where the story ends. So eventually he confronts Uncle Albert and wants to know, like, who are these people? Are they my family? Tell me, I want to know. And at first, Albert refuses to talk. He doesn't want anybody to talk about it. Leave me alone. Stop. Give me my drawings back. Blah, blah, blah. So Joseph basically breaks him down and eventually gets him to talk about it. And you find out that Albert used to have, I don't know if they were ever married, a husband or a boyfriend. I can't remember if they were ever married. I think maybe they did get married. I'm not sure. But so he finds out that his Uncle Albert used to have a husband. We'll just call it husband. Used to have a husband. And his husband died. And it's not explicitly said, but it's implied that he died of AIDS. Because it said that he got sick and like back in the late 80s and they wouldn't treat him. And so he just got sicker and sicker until he finally passed away. And you get the impression that it's AIDS, but it's not explicitly said. So you find out that Uncle Albert was married and that he died, and he and his husband, I'm not going to remember his name. Well, anyway, his husband who died, they used to like throw dinner parties, and they were really social and had people over all the time. And furthermore, Albert loved to make up stories. And Albert's husband liked to draw pictures for the stories that he would make up. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? So as it turns out, all those pictures were really nothing. They were just a story. And Albert made it up just for fun, and Albert's husband drew pictures just for fun. And Joseph is all upset because he wanted it to be his family history. He wanted to be a marvel. He wanted his Uncle Albert to be, the piece that was missing from his life, the fact that he was lonely and didn't have a family or a family history. And, like those projects in school when they're like, oh, make a family tree. And he never had anybody or anything. He thought this was it. Like, I'm a marvel, Uncle Albert, and we're all actors, and this is awesome. No, sorry, buddy. That's not it. It's just made up stories. It's just made up stories. So Joseph's all upset and depressed because he thought this was, this is my family. This is my history. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So there's another little side story happening that I didn't mention. Back when Joseph was still in school, before he got in trouble and then ran away because he was so sure he was going to get expelled and he was sad and whatnot, he had a best friend. And I can't remember. His best friend had a weird nickname, like Jelly Bean, but not that. Oh, I'm not going to remember it either. I'm bad with names. Those of you who know me watching this video, I'm bad with names. But his best friend also ran away from school, but I don't remember why. I think just ran away because he didn't want to be there anymore. And he knows that his best friend went to London, but he has no idea where his best friend went in London. And so he's just thinking like, oh, I'm hoping one day I will bump into him. And it's implied that Joseph has a crush on his best friend and is like kind of looking for him, not because it's just a best friend, but because, he's in love with him. So you never do find his best friend in the written narrative, but it ends well because when Joseph finally confronts Uncle Albert with, what are these drawings? Who's my family? Where did I come from? Blah, blah, blah. Can you please tell me about my family? I need to know. Who am I? Am I a family of actors? And Uncle Albert's like, no, these are just drawings that my deceased husband put together. I'm sorry, it's not that interesting. And then we find out that the reason he plays like the sounds all the time. Oh, I didn't explain that. The sounds that Joseph kept hearing where he was like, it sounds like there's people in the house. It sounds like I hear footsteps. I hear voices. At first, it's kind of like, oh, is it ghosts? No, it was Albert. When Albert's husband died, he felt lonely, so he made recordings of sounds and he would just play them all the time because he didn't want to be home alone and lonely. So he recorded sounds of parties and people and would just play them all the time so that he didn't feel lonely. And so you might be able to see where this is going, but eventually, Joseph and Albert grow close. They come to, share their secrets with one another. Joseph says, I feel lonely and I don't feel like I have any family, and my parents don't love me. They won't even come collect me whenever I get, I run out of school and I'm lost in London. Like I can't even get them to do that. And Albert's like, yeah. So they end up getting really close and decide, why don't you just stay? And so it's decided that Joseph is going to stay. That way, Joseph feels like he has a connection to a family member, his Uncle Albert. Albert doesn't feel as lonely anymore. And then also the little friend next door, they become close too. And so he has like a new best friend, and like it ends there. The text part ends there. And then it has the whole epilogue sort of the drawings. And in the epilogue of the drawings, it shows Joseph as an adult living in this house with Uncle Albert. and or not Uncle Albert. He's living in Uncle Albert's house, and there's another man there, and they are like having a meal together, and then like the drawings show that also in the background of this room is a little cradle and there's a little baby in it. And so it's implied that Joseph somehow finds his BFF, crush, whatever you want to call it, who ran away to London, and they got together, and now they're living in Albert's house because, I mean, it's a family. When Uncle Albert passes away, clearly it's going to go to his nephew Joseph, and they have a child together, and it's just lovely. Like, they're married and they're happy and they have a child together. But so here's the thing. That's beautiful, right? Like, what a beautiful ending. Like, he found his best friend, he found his family, he built a new family, he's got this beautiful house. Happy ending, right? But think about it for a second. Because the drawings in the beginning were made up by Uncle Albert and drawn by his husband. So that makes you wonder, is the epilogue real? Or is it just made up and the pictures are drawn? Because that's what the drawings in the beginning are. So while I was reading it and you know, interpreting the pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful freaking ending. Like, he found his family, and then he found his best friend, and he found love, and has a baby. Like, it's the perfect ending. But is it? Because it might not be real. It might just be made up, and the drawings, just like the whole first part was all made up. And I was invested in that family. Like Marcus and Billy and Oberon and Alex and Leo. I can't believe I just remembered all the names. That's amazing to me. Well, pause, please. Okay, it's hard to talk and put on lipstick at the same time. Well, so as it turns out, we don't know. Like, are they real? Are they not real? Who knows? Nobody knows for sure. So it's just, what are you going to do with it, right? What are you going to do? I am going to be sad because I really wanted that beautiful, happy ending. I got to put more sparkle on because, do I need a reason? So I loved it. But I really wish that there was a little bit more closure for our lovely little Joseph. Like, is Joseph going to find love? Is he going to find love? Is he going to find his best friend and live happily ever after? Because I really, really, really want him to. I really like him. Well, who knows, right? I guess as the reader, I get to decide that. Yeah. So yes, I do decide. I decide that he does, in fact, find his best friend. They do, in fact, fall in love and live happily ever after, okay? Like, that's how it ends. It's not a drawing. It becomes true. That's what I say. So, that's how the book ends. And like I said, I loved it. I wish that it was more specific. Like, yes, they meet each other and they find each other and they fall in love. But as the reader, I decided that is in fact how it ends. But I loved how it was drawings and text all together. I thought it was really unique. The very first time I sat down to read it, I read the entire drawing portion in one sitting. It took me, I don't know, a half an hour. And when I looked at the page numbers, it was like 300 and some. And I was like, what? Well, I guess it's pictures. So I scrolled through it pretty quickly. But I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend you buy it or borrow it from the library or whatever you need to do. I give it a 9 out of 10. And the only reason I don't give it a 10 out of 10 is because I really wish the ending was definite. All right, I'm going to put on some lip gloss. And it's sparkly lip gloss because, again, do I need a reason? And we're done. So, that's my book. Oh, let me fix my hair. Let me fix my hair a little bit because you had to have hair and makeup, right? Right. So that's the end. That's the book. That's the look. I have the blue and the gold. I hope you think it looks good with the sparkles. Does it look good? The Marbles by Brian Selznick. Beautiful hand-drawn artwork. Fantastic story. Great characters. Great emotional expression of characters. It was just beautiful. Just beautiful. Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. The little afterword. It turns out that he was inspired by an actual house that has like sounds in it. And it's set up as if a whole family lives there. And you can like walk through it and you hear the sounds of like children laughing and whatnot. I guess it's a thing like you pay to like get a tour through, and it's all set as if it's the late 1800s, like clothing and food and everything. So that inspired the book. He turned it into a whole story. And that said, I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope this book sounded interesting to you and you want to go out and read it now. And I also hope you like the way my makeup looks. I do. I really like it. I love the gold sparkle on my eyes. I think I might do this tomorrow again. So have a wonderful day and stay beautiful inside and out. Bye.